Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Annie and this is Unity Consciousness. Today we're going to be discussing the fall equinox that is going to be taking place next week on the 22nd. I've gone all over the place with this format. The reason why I decided to do a separate video for this equinox is I truly do believe everything that I'm reading, everything that I'm hearing, everything that I'm seeing indicates that this is a very special equinox season. So let's get started. Let's break it down. If you have a time constraint, I'm not going to be focused on trying to get everything in a very short period of time. This video may go long, so just be aware of that. Again, the purpose of this video was to discuss the fall equinox and the phenomenon, basically the Russell-McPherron phenomenon that surrounds the equinox and why it's very important to us here in the northern hemisphere, but truly on a global level. And as I did that, I recognized that I really wanted to talk more about the Kuiper Belt objects that I have been trying to research. There's just a few people out there that really track these objects and kind of integrate that into the equinox explanation of that energy. So I guess let's get started. On the 22nd, I have copious notes, so you'll see me reading from notes. I just didn't want to miss anything today. So on the 22nd of September at 9:05 p.m., we've got the fall equinox. And what that means is the sun is going to hit 0 degrees of Libra. And it's important to note that the 0 degrees of all the cardinal signs are actually called the world axis points. And 0 degrees of Aries would be the very beginning of the spark of the beginning. 0 degrees of Cancer would be 1/4 of the way through the zodiac sign, but again, a world axis point. 0 degrees of Libra, we're halfway through the zodiac, but yet another world axis point. A lot of things happening on the world stage at that, if planets are sitting at that degree. And then again, 0 degrees of Capricorn, the finalization, the last quarter of the zodiac wheel, and the intention over that period of time. So we've got 4 world axis points: 0 degrees of Aries, 0 degrees of Cancer, 0 degrees of Libra, 0 degrees of Capricorn. So at the time of the fall equinox, we have several Kuiper, K-U-I-P-E-R, Kuiper Belt objects that will be making aspects at this time. Why is that important? So let's talk briefly about the Kuiper Belt objects. So we have the planets that are the inner planets that really help us define how we are on a personal level, right? Our sun, moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars, that sort of thing. And then we move into the outer planets, which really do give us an understanding of what the collective is dealing with. So that's going to be, Pluto, Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter, that way out planets. And then you've got the Kuiper Belt objects. They have been recently discovered, recently being during mostly my lifetime. I'm 58, almost 59 years old. So relatively new planets, dwarf planets, or asteroids that exist in the realm that's on the other side of Pluto. Like Pluto's the king of those planets as they spin way, way, way far out. And what makes it so interesting is because these planets and dwarf planets and asteroids in the Kuiper Belt take 200 to 300 years to completely go all the way around the zodiac wheel. So when they make specific aspects to like a world access point or the galactic center, it's very, very meaningful because it's been 200 to 300 years since it's hit that point. Certainly nothing that any of us have ever witnessed in our life cycles because it takes so long for that planet to completely go around the zodiac wheel. So that's Kuiper Belt. That's what I believe it represents. So as we ascend from 3-dimensional to 5-dimensional beings, we are going to need a greater depth of understanding. That comes with ascension. So at three-dimensional, we were happy with being told what we were supposed to do and how we were supposed to do it. Top-down authority was key. It helped us build the roads and infrastructures that were important during the previous age of evolution. And then now we are going from three-dimensional to five-dimensional awareness. So it makes sense that we should be taking a look and understanding a higher level of conscious being, which would be these Kuiper Belt objects. It's not even the personal planet knowledge, the collective understanding. Now we're going into universal understanding and why things are happening from a galactic standpoint, not just us as an individual, not on how we fit into our general collective environment, but how we fit into the galaxy as a whole, and that's huge. As well, I also believe that the chakra system is expanding. I haven't been able to dive down this rabbit hole much, but I have seen the understanding of the chakras going to 12 chakras, way above your head, way down below your feet into the earth. That'll be the next rabbit hole, but stick with me as we go through the Kuiper Belt objects and its relativity to astrology and how it can be applied to what's occurring now, and why I'm babbling and why I'm bringing this to your attention as well. So let's get back anyway to the fall equinox on the 22nd of September at 9:05 p.m. At that time, we have Ixion is at 0 degrees of Capricorn. Again, it is a world axis point. Mercury will be at 0 degrees of Libra. Mercury is going retrograde. I'm going to get back to that in a second and why Mercury retrograde season is very important to us now. Manway is at 0 degrees of Aries. Ixion and Manway are both Kuiper Belt objects. Ixion is the Pluto's brother and renegade king chained to the wheel of karma. I love that. He's an underworld, again, Pluto's brother, so ruling the underworld, and it warns of the implications of acting against universal law. In other words, repeating patterns just for the sake of repeating patterns, not really getting the message and not wanting to repeat it. So once again, over and over and over, we're repeating the same pattern. So Ixion helps us understand that if we take responsibility and learn from our misdeeds, that we don't have to repeat the karmic cycle over and over again. Now, back to that was Ixion's at 0 degrees of Capricorn. What I find interesting about that is Pluto is just about finished its traverse of Capricorn. Started back, I believe, in 2008, and it's still got a little bit longer to go, another year or so, and then it will be completely through Capricorn. And Ixion is now entering Capricorn to make sure that we don't repeat those same patterns that we have in Capricorn that has got us to where we are, which is why we're going through this ascension period to begin with. Which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? I know. Anyway, then we have Mercury at 0 degrees of Libra. So Mercury went retrograde back on September the 9th. And at the time of this Mercury retrograde, these same planets, these Kuiper Belt objects, dwarf planets, asteroids, were very close to these same configurations. Again, they move slow. So it takes a long time for them to tick from 1 degree to the next. But I truly do believe that this Mercury retrograde season that kicked off on September 9th is really setting us up for the chaos that's about to ensue here collectively on our planet. And on the 22nd, 23rd of September, Mercury will retrograde back over the 0 point of Libra. And then on the 10th, 11th of September, Mercury will begin to go forward again, will be moving forward again from Virgo back into Libra and hit 0 degrees on the 10th or 11th of October, bringing these same themes back into focus again. The planet Ixion, dwarf planet Ixion, Mercury, retrograde, Mercury's meaning in Libra, meaning balancing of responsibilities, legal issues, choices, making a choice. That's all Mercury in Libra. And then Manway at 0 degrees of Aries. Oh, we didn't talk about Manway. Manway is very important. So the fact that Manway, which is a dwarf planet in the Kuiper Belt, let's talk about Manway. What is Manway? Manway is the manifester of the Great Spirit's vision for Earth. Basically, Manway is the creator or the indigenous world's understanding of the creator of Earth. With Manway being now back at 0 degrees of Aries, which is the kickstart of the universe. 0 degrees of Aries is where the zodiac wheel starts. That's the inspiration of all. So does that mean that at this Libra 0 degrees of Libra, this fall's equinox, that this really truly is the dawning of new Earth? I do believe that we're onto something here. Because we've got Ixion at 0 degrees of Capricorn, Mercury's at 0 degrees of Libra, and Manway is at 0 degrees of Aries. Now, if you think about it, Libra and Aries are opposite axis, right? And then Capricorn is going to square. So Ixion is going to be squaring Libra and Aries. So very, very, very interesting to me that at the time of the fall equinox, we are going to be asked to make choices relative to new Earth, how we see ourselves in that new Earth, aligning with that new Earth energy and carrying that energy forward. I mean, being serious about it. So what does the new Earth principles, those Kuiper Belt objects are all based on light. They're all talking about manners in which we can use the light to our benefit for the purpose of ascension and existing at a very high level of consciousness, 5-dimensional and beyond. That speaks about living from the inside out, allowing your internal processes to dictate what the external is going to look like, versus the reverse. And we all know the folks that they just can't help themselves. They are watching TV constantly and allowing the television or, perhaps a dear friend telling them how they should be very fearful in the chaos that's coming, and that this is something to dread and be worried about, when in fact that type energy instills fear inside of you, or you're allowing the external to determine how you feel internally. Truly, the new Earth principles are living from the inside out, coming from a place of peace, understanding, and, just higher level of consciousness, and allowing that to determine how you manage situations versus the opposite. New Earth principle, working with nature. So, at least for as long as I can remember, there's just been a handful of people that I have seen take nature into account when making decisions. And when we have the ability to coexist by working with nature versus pillaging resources, and I'm not making a political statement, that's not what I'm saying whatsoever, because there are certain natural resources that are necessary for us to utilize and benefit. However, it is an even balance. Again, back to that Libra principle of balance. Don't extract all for the purpose of what are we doing to replace whatever it is that we are consuming or using. Working in communities, I love this theory, it's great. Working in communities that support galactic living. Again, we are existing on a higher level of consciousness, and the more you step into that, the more the universe will provide to you the opportunities that present, because you are existing on that level of understanding or plane. So working in communities that support galactic living. When things get chaotic, what does that mean? So let me back up on the galactic communities. That's like community gardens. And when you have an abundance of something at your home, you share it with somebody who may not have it. And that doesn't mean that they then owe you. No, it's paying it forward. It's communal, but not necessarily everybody lives together in the same house. But we are mindfully watching out for each other as well as watching out for ourselves. We are not being overly indulgent. We are not being overly consuming. But equally, we are not sacrificing ourselves in any way for the purpose of others any longer either. Those are all New Earth principles. Now, because I truly do believe that September is setting us up for the month of October and November, I think October is going to be pretty tumultuous. Again, I'm not an astrologer, I'm not an astronomer, but I have been feeling very out of sorts, and the more I dig into research into astronomers and astrologers that I truly do respect, I'm hearing their words and I'm taking what they're saying into account. And I really do believe, based on the configurations that I'm seeing also, that we've got some chaos coming up. And it's important for us to recognize that chaos is also an opportunity. Yesterday, I was receiving a download, which quite often happens in my world of channeling, and I just stepped out of the shower, so I grabbed the towel, grabbed paper, grabbed pencil, sit down, you just start writing. You don't give up, you start writing, and you capture as much of the wealth of wisdom that comes through that you can. And this is what I was given. In chaos, there's opportunity. When you pause and hold space for what is, you invite the opportunity for you to witness something, like something being. There's a void that can be filled, a heart that you can bless, a moment to be still. Whatever it is, pause and hold space amongst the chaos, and don't be surprised when an opportunity shows itself to you. I truly do believe that's what's going to be coming down here. I also received 2 different downloads of Last Call. I've seen that twice yesterday. So I truly believe that this fall equinox is going to be our last call to jump on the 5-dimensional awareness train. And it's not a bad thing that you don't. I just truly believe, and I think we all can say that we have witnessed folks that are really, really fear-based and stuck in that 3-dimensional awareness. And so unfortunately, the lives have become very tumultuous. Their lives have become very tumultuous. Not that those that are in 5th-dimensional awareness don't have that same level of things happening. It's just the manner in which they respond to those things happening is very different, again, from the inside out. That's very important to remember at the time of this equinox. Now, I also want to talk about with Ixion, Manway, and Mercury all being at 0 degrees, those world axis points at the time of the fall equinox, we've got all of these planets retrograde. So many planets retrograde. I think Venus and Mars. Mars is in shadow, so it's pre-retrograde, if you will, or I guess it's in a retrograde state, but not physically going retrograde yet. But with all of these planets going retrograde, it is absolutely time for review, and it's time for us to go way back, all the way back. Let's start reviewing things, decisions made, places we found ourselves. If you look at Ixion and the fact that the wheel of karma is part of this. We're taking a look back at decisions that we've made and choices that we've made, and has that really aligned with who we are? Now we're getting an opportunity to wipe that slate clean, make that decision, and jump in, fully immerse ourselves into that 5-dimensional awareness. I truly believe that's why this review period is so profound right now, before Pluto is the first planet out in just a couple of weeks. Now let's also talk about the Russell-McPherron Phenomenon. I found a really good graphic that helps you understand what the Russell-McPherron Phenomenon is. At the time of the equinoxes, it's been said that the magnetic field at the poles thins out or has cracks in it that allows higher level of light to enter Earth's atmosphere. Well, that is very true, but the cracks really aren't cracks. So let me show you this graphic. I think it will be helpful to you to understand. So this is planet Earth, and the magnetic field, as you can see, at the North Pole and the South Pole, there's a break. And as solar flares or give me a moment. As solar flares leave the sun, I'm trying to think of what it's called. Coronal mass ejections, by the way. As they are, as sunspots peel off, or we have a coronal mass ejection, CME, that comes towards the planet, because of these breaks at the North and South Pole, the magnetic field is less dense, let's say, and that the particles of this light can then come into the Earth. Actually, there's radiation that can be felt at either of those two poles at a very high level. You'd have to be in an airplane, and it's so minuscule, it's not going to make a difference. But this is what happens about the time of the equinox. And believe it or not, that there has been a change in the manner in which this phenomenon occurs, and that opening is lasting for a longer period of time. That's been noted by science. So we have this occurring, and I believe, based on what I'm watching relative to coronal mass ejections, and we had an M-class flare that came in this morning. As a matter of fact, I do believe that these portals are already opened for the equinox, for the fall equinox. But this just allows a higher level of that photon light that the Earth is getting pounded with to really come into the planet. And if you think about the fact that we've got this high energy, high light energy coming into Earth at the same time that we've got Ixion and Manway and Mercury all at these world access points, we're onto something here. It is time for new Earth, and I couldn't be more excited about it. Now, Mercury retrograde cycle, there were other planets that were in or near important points at the time of the Mercury retrograde cycle. So I do believe that this Mercury retrograde cycle is also integral to new Earth at Manway at 0 degrees of Aries. And Maki. Let's talk about Maki. So at the time of Mercury retrograde, Maki was at 8 degrees of Libra and conjunct Mercury. Which was in Libra at that time at 8 degrees, or real close. I believe it was at 9 degrees of Libra at that time. And Maki is a dwarf planet, again in the Kuiper Belt, and it speaks about justice between people, decision-making, and leadership. All of this combined speaks about changes in leadership. Now, this was back on the September 9th, and here we are having this massive change of leadership just across the pond. Does that mean there'll be others? Who knows? Who knows? It's all part of this energy during this Mercury retrograde cycle. Again, that cycle continues into October. So be aware that there could be other controversies that pop up, or maybe transitions that don't go as well as planned at the time of the fall equinox, and also the next moon that will be coming up just a couple days later. We've got the new moon that will be occurring in Libra, I believe, on the 25th. So it'll have a lot of the same markings as the fall equinox. This is the crazy stuff, the rabbit holes I go down. So this is actually a chart that I created based on the fall equinox, and then just made notes all over it based on Kuiper Belt objects and videos that I reviewed. So anyway, that's a little bit about, I know I went long, I expected it would go long, but that's a little bit of information that I can share with you about this fall equinox. And I think it's important as we approach this equinox system, this equinox, good Lord, Mercury is retrograde. as we enter this fall equinox season, that we align our choices with that of New Earth, or whatever you truly believe in. For me, it is New Earth. I would like to start to infuse some of these Kuiper Belt objects into more of the weekly forecasts, if at all possible. Like I said, they're very hard to research. Kelly Hunter, Kelley Hunter, is where I received all the information I've spoken about today. And I can post a link to her website in the comment box below. Please give me your comments on this. I'm very interested in knowing if I'm going down these rabbit holes for my own personal sake, or if in fact, not only just for my personal sake, you would like to be aware of it too. And if you would, then I can continue to infuse that into the weekly updates when that information is available for me to research, as well as readily available for me to give you research that I can truly stand behind. So anyway, that's all I have for you based on the fall equinox. Again, principles of New Earth, that's what if you're going to set an intention, I always set intentions at the equinox that'll carry me through from now until we get to the spring equinox, and I can reset intentions. But based on where I've got these Kuiper Belt objects, where I want to see myself now and what I see myself doing in the next 6 months is what I'm going to be focusing on as I set those new intentions. So let's talk about New Earth principles again really quick as we close. Living from the inside out, making that choice no matter how chaotic it is in the world. I'm going to choose to root in peace, abundance, and bliss. And from that place, I will project outwards. Working with nature, not against nature. How can I help nature sustain itself or better itself on my existence? Working in communities, and that can be a galactic community. It can be a local community. It can be a food garden. It can be a food pantry. It can be a skill that you have that you want to give others. You don't necessarily have to charge for it. Perhaps there's a trade-out that you can negotiate that benefits everybody. Those are those New World principles I'm talking about. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by my channel. If you like this video, please do like it. If you're someone you feel could be helped by this video, please do share it with them. I'm very interested in your comments. I tried the tarot card to go along with the weekly reading, and I'll continue that. I did get one person come back and tell me that that was a good idea. So very dear friend, as a matter of fact, I'm going to include that for you, my dear friend. And if there are Kuiper Belt objects that you would like for me to continue to put into weekly readings, please put that in the comments, or any other comments that you have for me based on this video. If you want to know when videos are being subscribed, click the subscribe button and you'll be notified when a video is dropped. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I truly do appreciate it. It is a blessing to have you in my world. Have a fabulous fall equinox. Namaste.